Talking to a camera is weird. It can be very difficult to look at a piece of glass and not a real human being. And when I started making YouTube videos, I had to think through this concept of thinking less about the camera and more about you, the viewer, one person on the other side of this camera, and what is next for you. I'm Neil. Welcome to Next with Neil, and I'm on a journey of starting a YouTube channel from scratch and sharing everything I know and I learn and I experience with you to help you go from where you are now to where you could be. And talking to camera is definitely something that takes practice, and these are 7 reasons to help you get more comfortable with talking to a camera. Now, the first reason is accepting that it's going to feel awkward. I think there is something very liberating and freeing when you have radical acceptance around this topic, that it's not easy for many people. And once you accept that and you acknowledge that it's gonna feel potentially a little awkward, a little stilted, you're also out and about with people sometimes watching you, and I'm talking to a camera. It's very different to if you were talking to a friend at a coffee shop and you were sharing a hot chocolate or the beverage of your choice, and there's those moments of body language and acknowledgement and visual cues and all the rest. It can take a while to get used to talking to camera. So the first thing is just accepting that it might take a little while and that it will be awkward at the start. Now, the second reason is or the second tip to help you feel more comfortable talking on camera is thinking of the camera not as the 1,000 people that you're talking to, as if you're at this big auditorium presenting this speech, but that you are chatting to one other person. By really focusing on that element, one other person, you, that I'm chatting to across from this camera, it helps bring it back to far more authenticity, to a conversational approach, to the fact that we're catching up and I'm sharing with you what I'm learning about talking to camera, and hopefully helping you in your own process, whether that's starting a YouTube channel, talking to camera, or maybe at work you're having to film and deliver elements on video, etc., etc. Whatever situation you're in that involves talking to camera, I hope that these tips will help you. So again, tip number 2 is really about thinking about one person, not an entire arena or auditorium of people. Now, the third tip that I have that's really worked well for me is don't memorize a script. Do not memorize a script verbatim, because it can be a recipe for disaster in terms of tripping over your words, being fixed into a script, etc. Now, I have got just here in front of me literally handwritten bullet points to just keep me on track. And that is all I use for all the videos I do. I do not read verbatim from a script. I don't use a teleprompter. I don't memorize the script. It is more a delivery that comes from the heart, as a conversation, person to person, human to human, sharing my insights, tripping over my words at times, but again, just really imparting to you my insights, my learnings, my lessons to hopefully help you go from where you are now to where you could be. And I have found it very beneficial to not memorize a script. I have an idea in my head. I've got the key headings that I'd like to address to keep me on track. I've got some takeaways that I want to point out. I've got the start, I've got the finish, and that is it. And the rest is coming from me talking authentically to you about what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, and how I'm getting more comfortable talking to the camera. Now, the fourth tip of delivering to camera is looking at the lens and not yourself. Now, I'm using my iPhone, so I cannot see a mirror image of myself, which I actually find very helpful because it means that I'm completely engaged with delivering to the camera, to you on the other side of the camera, versus when I have used other cameras in the past where it's got the flip screen and you can see yourself, like if you're on a Zoom or a Teams call that you might have experienced before, that there's that element, right, of wanting to look at yourself and see the image, etc. But when you're completely focused just on the lens and delivering, it helps create a far more authentic delivery. You're far more engaged in the process of delivering the content. You are not worrying about the visuals. You are not concerned with how you might look, etc., or how you might sound. You are focusing on what you'd like to deliver. And so that has been a huge takeaway for me as well. I'm just using my iPhone for all my videos, and because it is pointing at me for the higher resolution quality, I can't see myself. Obviously, I do a couple of test shots before we film to make sure I'm in frame, in focus, etc. But other than that, it means that I'm looking straight down the lens, and that enables a far more authentic delivery. Now, tip number 5 is that energy delivered while talking to camera can feel different. So sometimes when I've done practice videos, etc., I've realized that while I might have thought that the energy was at a good level, on camera it might have come across a little flat. So a tip to consider is upping the energy a little bit more when you are talking and delivering on camera, because that will translate in the footage that you capture. So the energy can feel different. And I think, again, because you're not talking to a person and you're not feeding off that energy and those visual cues and the body language and the conversation back and forward, sometimes the energy when delivering on camera can either come across as a little flat or something to consider in terms of the videos that you are creating. Now, reason number 7, or tip number 6, sorry, not 7, we're keeping all these videos unedited and authentic. Tip number 6 is to record even when you're not creating videos. So a big tip I have around getting more comfortable with delivering to camera is practicing. And it doesn't have to be in the form of creating a video. It is a couple times a day or a couple times a week, pressing record in your camera and talking about your morning, about the breakfast you're creating, about the day that you have ahead, about your worries, about your hopes, about your dreams, about your fitness, about your YouTube channel, about what you're planning. Practice talking to camera, and it doesn't have to be under the performance anxiety or pressure environment of for a specific video. It can just be you getting the hang of turning on your camera, talking to the lens, talking to one other person on the other side of that video, and getting more comfortable and authentic with that. So again, I found that very helpful, and the more that you factor it into different parts of the day, the more comfortable you will feel around talking about topics, talking in different situations. I'm here outdoors. Yes, there are some people wandering around, and I'm comfortable with that now. I'm in the zone, I'm talking to camera, and the more that you do that, the less stilted it will hopefully become, the less awkward you will feel, and the more confident you will be delivering to camera. Now, the 7th tip that I have around getting more comfortable with talking to camera is making more videos. So, as you'll see on this channel, I'm a huge fan of the book by Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that concept applies to YouTube. It applies to making videos. It applies to just jumping in feet first and making more videos. And the more videos I make, the more I'm noticing how I am getting more comfortable with filming and talking to camera, and talking to one other person on the other side of this camera. So again, make more videos, produce more videos, because that is the way that you will move from where you are now to where you could be. So I hope that those 7 reasons help you. Anchored across all those 7 reasons is the ability to get more comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. to get more comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because it can be tricky talking to camera. It can be difficult recording videos. I feel that, I understand that, I'm still going through that. And as you'll see on this channel, I'm also going to share a lot about my public speaking journey and how I used to have a stutter growing up, from experiencing and being severely bullied in school to losing my confidence and rebuilding myself through the roles that I've had, through the public speaking opportunities. And if I can do it, then anyone can, then you can. And I know that public speaking and talking to camera can be very anxiety inducing for a lot of people. I get that. I've experienced that. And having now experienced a lot of presenting to camera and also off camera in other settings that I'll chat to in other videos, it's all about experience. It is all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So I'm Neil, and this is Next with Neil, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.